Hey everybody, and welcome back to the board meeting. Today I'm doing a bit of a review over the third big box campaign expansion to Marvel Champions, and that is the Mad Titans Shadow. And if you've played the other campaigns in this game, it's just like them. It's going to come with two new heroes, which are Adam Warlock and Spectrum, and then it's going to be against 5 different scenarios or villains. And this is going to center around Thanos getting his rings or the stones and powering up, basically. And there will be spoilers in this, just so you know. But if you've played the other ones, you know that there's not much of a story element to the campaigns. There's just like one comic book strip, basically, and then you're going to play out a scenario. But just so you know, if you don't want to see, I'm going to be showing off some of the cards. So if you don't want to see, you might not want to watch this. But we'll talk about the two heroes first, talk about each of the scenarios, and then we'll come back up here and I'll give my thoughts on the campaign as a whole. So let's go take a look at the first hero, Adam Warlock. Going into this, I thought Adam Warlock would be my favorite of the two heroes. On his alter ego side, he can discard a card to remove any status effect. Also, Adam Warlock's deck is made up of an equal number of all 4 aspects, possibly making him the most versatile hero to date. On his hero side, you can discard an aspect card to gain a bonus depending on what that aspect card was that you discarded. Like if you discard an aggression card, you get to do 2 damage to an enemy. He has quite a few powerful cards that can remove lots of threat or do lots of damage, but you will be asked to put cards from your deck into your discard pile to enhance that ability. So you will go through your deck pretty fast with Adam Warlock, but he even has a card in his deck that will heal him when he goes through his deck. I liked him and thought he had some neat cards. He would probably land somewhere around the middle compared to all of my other favorite Marvel heroes. Let's move on to the second hero, Spectrum. First off, going into this, I knew absolutely nothing about the actual hero Spectrum in the Marvel Universe. Spectrum's main thing is she's going to be switching forms between Pulsar, Photon, and Gamma forms. Each form will get an immediate boost when switching to it, and then give her a boost to some ability while she remains in that form. For example, when she switches to her Gamma form, she deals 1 damage to an enemy, and then from then on she will get a +2 to her attack ability while she is in that form. Whenever she switches from alter ego to hero form, she gets to choose one of these forms. She also has cards that will deal with each of these forms and make her change forms pretty regularly and allowing the players to switch tactics to do whatever is currently most in need. She reminds me a lot of Ant-Man, of how often he is switching forms, and he is one of my favorite heroes, and I think she ranks right up there with him for me. Let's now jump over and start talking about the 5 different scenarios. First up is Ebony Maw. Ebony Maw is the first scenario of the campaign, and your goal is just to defeat Ebony and bring his hit points down to 0. Ebony will be throwing out spells at players which will attach to them and place these tokens that will act as a timer for those spells. Each time Ebony activates against that player, you remove one of those tokens on his spells, and if there are no more tokens, that spell will then activate against the player and do some pretty nasty things to them. I really enjoyed this scenario against him, and this will be one I will be playing outside of the campaign pretty regularly. I think this is a pretty good starter scenario for some people, much like Rhino is. Let's go to the second scenario, which is labeled Tower Defense. The second scenario has 2 main villains to defeat in Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight. In this scenario, you must defeat both of these villains before they destroy the Avengers Tower, and this is a tower defense type mission. There are 2 sides to the Avengers Tower as well. Once the tower is so damaged, it flips over to its other side, which will have some consequences in later scenarios for letting it be damaged so much before winning. This scenario is definitely a balancing act between attacking the villains and thwarting the 2 main schemes both villains have in order to protect yourself and the tower. A lot of times you will have to choose between your character taking damage or the Avengers Tower. This was an alright mission. We have seen a different scenario before with multiple villains in it, like the previously released Wrecking Crew set. So it was interesting, but this was my least favorite scenario of the entire campaign, but it wasn't like I hated it. Let's move on to the middle scenario of the campaign, Thanos. It was quite a surprise that Thanos wasn't the final scenario of the box, and in fact, just the third scenario even. In this mission, Thanos has the Infinity Stones and the Infinity Gauntlet that have their own deck and will activate each time Thanos activates against a certain hero. Thanos is going to hit hard, and he has many things in his deck that will even make him hit harder. Once he activates, the Infinity Stone deck activates, and depending on which stone is out at the time, will do different abilities that you are going to absolutely hate. It almost feels like you never get reprieve as bad things are constantly happening. With the Infinity Gauntlet and Thanos' powerful minions constantly hitting you, this was a really fun mission, but sometimes really frustrating. I was expecting Thanos to be nearly impossible to beat, but to my shock and happiness, he was difficult to beat but definitely manageable, especially if you deck build to make your heroes a bit better. And I'm trying to do this with minimal spoilers, but Thanos definitely has a huge surprise if he makes it into his second scheme. So if you can, try to avoid that. Moving to the next scenario, which was Hela. The fourth scenario takes you down to Hell to take on Hela, who is holding Odin captive. Initially, Hela has infinite health, but you can weaken her by taking her down to 0 health and switching her to a less powerful side. How you take her out is by taking out a series of big bad minions and side schemes, which will eventually lead to Odin's release onto your side. Once you have Odin, you can now take Hela down to 0 points to ultimately defeat her. Hela has a bunch of attachments in her deck as well to make her a bit more powerful, and she gets stronger as more and more side schemes get defeated throughout the mission. This was my favorite scenario of the entire campaign, and one I will be playing outside of the campaign as well. I just like all the side schemes and minions that come out, which are some of the biggest minions we have ever seen in Marvel Champions. Let's go to our final scenario now, which is Loki. The final scenario of the campaign is Loki, which I would have never guessed that going into this. Loki has 5 different versions of himself, and he will be transforming into a different Loki every once in a while, and all these Lokis act differently and hit differently. Your goal is to kill a number of different Lokis depending on your difficulty level you want to play at. Like if you are playing on rookie mode, you only need to kill one version of Loki. But if you are playing on heroic mode, good luck, you will need to take down 4 Lokis, which can be very, very hard to do. Loki will be doing all kinds of different annoying things to you, as you would expect since he is the god of mischief after all. Plus, Loki will have the Infinity Gauntlet now, which will just add to the scenario's craziness. And I found this to be yet another good scenario for this campaign. Now let's go back up top and talk about my overall thoughts of this campaign. So, I have to make a confession. I wasn't really looking forward to playing this campaign. And it's for one reason. It's because of this last campaign that he came out with. And it's not like this is a horrible campaign, but it wasn't for me. And there's one reason. And that is because the difficulty was so high in that last campaign. When I play Marvel Champions, I want to feel powerful. I want to feel like a superhero. That campaign was a slog for me. Getting through that 5 scenarios, it probably took me 20 some different plays to get through all those 5. So I was probably like, I won 5 and I lost probably 15 to 18 times. That wasn't fun for me. I like to win more often than I lose when I'm playing this game. That's just me. That's my preference for this game. I want to feel powerful when I'm playing this game. This campaign, I'm not saying it was easy, but it went from difficulty up here from the most Galaxy Most Wanted expansion. It brought it down to here, more of what I like it to be. And there's 5 scenarios. I beat it in 8 plays. I think I lost the Thanos one once. I think I lost the Hela one once, and I think I lost the Loki one once. The other 2 I managed to get through on the first play. The other 3 it took me 2 plays. So I still had a winning percentage. I won 5. I lost 3. So that was more how I want this game to be. I want to win more often than I lose. But it was still difficult. It was still had those brain burner moments. You had to puzzle out how you could possibly win. How can you survive another round to get to the next round to just do some damage and finally take them out. So yes, I enjoyed this campaign as a whole. I really liked both of the heroes. Spectrum especially is going to be one of my all-time favorite heroes. And the five different scenarios, I liked them all. My least favorite is the tower defense one, and I don't hate that one. It's just my least favorite of the campaign. But Ebony Maw might be my new starter villain that replaces Rhino, because whenever I get a new hero in Marvel Champions, I put him up against Rhino just to see how they work, because Rhino is a very fast scenario. This kind of reminds me of that, but it's a little bit more interesting with his spells. Hela might be my favorite scenario that's ever been in this game. That's how much I liked that. So yes, I liked the heroes. I liked the scenario. The campaign was interesting. You get some interesting cards throughout the campaign to add to your decks. But yes, it was a fun campaign. It's fun all around. Yes, this kind of has reinvigorated me for Marvel Champions. Even after I finished the campaign, I went and I played with Spectrum against some other villains. When I finished the previous campaign, the Galaxy's Most Wanted, I set this game aside for about a month and a half, 2 months, where I did not play it. So yes, I would definitely recommend this new big box expansion, the Mad Titans Shadow. It's fun all around. I highly suggest it if you like Marvel Champions. So yes, that will wrap up this review. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe to see more weekly content from me in the future. Make sure to hit that bell to get notifications. Hope you all have an amazing day. Take care, everyone.